Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we have a real interesting topic of conversation, as we ask if Reboot Guilliman is right or wrong to impose Astartes rule over loyal worlds. Oh yes, this is going to be a good one. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we are discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, since his rebirth within the current timeline, one of the most dominant storylines revolving around Reboot Guilliman has been his complete and utter dismay at the Imperium around him. Never in his wildest dreams did he think it could fall so far from the Emperor's dreams. Gone is the shining hope for the future, and gone is the light of the Imperial truth. Instead, he returned to an Imperium stagnated in 10,000 years of nothing short of decay and corruption, and one completely immersed and dependent on the worship of the God Emperor, his father, the man who dedicated his life to removing mankind from its dependency of religion. How ironic it is in turn that he has become their god. And while Guilliman has remained steadfast in his intentions to defend mankind from the enemies assailing it, his angst at having to deal with the people of this new Imperium have been clear and evident. From the very beginning, he has had to play a game of political chess, even having to remove and replace several High Lords of Terror, only to see them rise up in rebellion against him. And so strong is the power base of the Ecclesiarchy, the religious institution of the Imperium, he is forced to appease their fears with representatives amongst his fleet. And this really is just the tip of the iceberg. Every move he makes is questioned by some power player within the Imperium in one way or another. The actions of their own Lord Commander, feared by the very people he is trying to protect. And that brings us to the discussion today. For while Guilliman's own realm of Ultramar has long been signalled out as the gem of an otherwise bleak Imperium, it is in truth a pale imitation of the Ultramar that was. The Ultramar that it began its days as during the Great Crusade. Now, at the end of the heresy and the implementation of the Codex Astartes, the Ultramarines Legion became the chapter that we know today, and the many successors of the Legion were scattered across the galaxy to forge their own identities, which obviously meant a vast reduction in size for the once mighty and largest of all legions. And in an interesting turn of events, considering the Ultramarines' now much reduced size, Guilliman appears to have reduced not only the borders of Ultramar itself, but the Ultramarines' direct control of much of the realm as well, instead handing governorship over to the people of the Imperium. While of course the Ultramarines and Macragge would always remain the beating heart, it was now time for mankind to step up to the task. And well, judging by his reaction upon his return, Guilliman couldn't be more dissatisfied with the results, pretty much appalled by what he has found, even coming to the conclusion that perhaps it was a mistake to break down the legions. And thus this has led him to the decision to re-implement Astartes' governorship not only across the realm of Ultramar, but to also extend its borders back as it was during the days of the Great Crusade. And this means forcibly taking control of realms who have governed themselves for the past 10,000 years, whether they like it or not. To govern this new expanded realm, Guilliman has appointed 4 tetrarchs, splitting the realm into equal sections. Ultramarines Captain Severus Agamemnon, Genesis Chapter Captain Portan, Bathus of the Doom Eagles, and of course Decimus Felix, with Marnius Calgar retaining control of Macragge and its core worlds. Now, in fairness to Guilliman, the Tetrarchs are not only there to govern, but also ensure Ultramar is kept safe from the myriad of enemies assailing it, which at this time is obviously a great many. However, we do have to ask, is Guilliman right to make this move? And let's begin with yes. Absolutely, this is the best and right move for Guilliman to make. Well, first off, this is the Lord Commander of the Imperium that we're talking about here. A living, breathing son of the Emperor himself. He speaks in the Emperor's name. If there's anyone who can do what he wants within the Imperium, well then it's most definitely him. If he believes this is the right move to make in the interests of mankind, well then who are we, or the people of the Imperium, to question him? Not only that, this is the man who ruled Macragge during its golden age, the very man who created the realm of Ultramar itself. Why wouldn't he seek to return it to its once greatness? Yes, many of these worlds that will have to submit to the Tetrarchs are governed fairly and justly. However, for each and every one of those, there is no doubt one that is full of rife and corruption. Governors of worlds that rule only for their benefit. Ones that, far from aiding Guilliman in his quest to save the Imperium, have only hindered it. And the reasons could be many. A simple fact of poor leadership and infrastructure, selfishly governing only for themselves, perhaps not meeting their quota of Militarum recruits, or worse still, may have reached out to the opening arms of the ruinous powers, and thus have far darker secrets within their hearts. Maybe if Guilliman wasn't so pressed to defend an entire galaxy and race, he may be able to take more of a tactful route, be more diplomatic in his approaches, but the simple fact is he doesn't have the luxury of time. The Imperium is in turmoil, half of its people lost to the darkness across the Great Rift. Every second he wastes having to deal with a governor or world not acting as they should, or not adequately being able to defend itself, is another second he leaves those people in true need alone. If he is going to be able to save the Imperium, he needs it to be the Imperium as it should be. The Imperium as it was destined to be, not the one it fell to without the guidance of the Primarchs. But what about no? Imposing Astartes' rule is wrong. Well, first and foremost, it was the Emperor himself who said that it was humanity who were to lead themselves. There was a reason why the High Lords of Terror were created, and a reason why it begun with Malcador, not the genetically engineered Primarchs, let alone their sons. The Astartes are too far removed from the baseline people of the Imperium. They fundamentally cannot understand them as a result. They don't know what it means to love, to cry, to live, to have compassion. At the end of the day, they were made to be weapons of war. If the people of the Imperium are ever to achieve the goal of prosperity, then it must be done by their own hand. Sure, some men and women may fail at that task, but that's life. That's what living is all about. We're not perfect. None of us. That's what it means to be human. And at the end of the day, maybe Guilliman simply can't truly grasp that. Maybe so focused has he become on the defense of the Imperium that he's lost sight of just what the Imperium was truly meant to be. The evolution and greatness of mankind. Mankind aren't a hindrance to his armies like he sees. They're the very reason for them. Honestly, really, it raises a real interesting question as to how Guilliman's first rule of Lord Commander may go. How truly dark the Imperium is going to become in the years of the Scouring. And honestly, it makes me question even more just how big that lot of Malcador is going to become. The one voice who could truly give the Primarchs a different perspective, even one the Emperor himself could not truly reach. Quite simply, Malcador the Sigillite was the only human who could talk to the Primarchs on equal standing. I'm not saying Guilliman doesn't have the best of intentions, but at the end of the day, he is a Primarch. How much can he truly relate to the people he is made to defend? Guilliman, as we said at the start, has been playing politics since his return, and maybe a large part of his decision in placing his commanders in control of Ultramar is to simply cut off that part of the problem. No longer will he have to converse with human governors, men and women who just can't comprehend what's at stake. No longer rely on reports of worlds not fulfilling their requirements. Now he simply issues an order, and it's done. But in doing so, rather than remove the problem of politics, it could be said he's playing straight into it even more, and playing into it rather badly. The outcry of Guilliman's Primaris unveiling and the following Indomitus Crusades was notable to say the least. To us, yes, it may seem like madness to question the clear and apparent salvation of the Imperium, the only hope it possibly has to turn back the tides of chaos. However, we need to remember, the Imperium has been surviving for 10,000 years. 10,000 years without the Primarchs. Yes, it's been a grim-dark universe, but it's been a grim-dark of survival. And unless you know something other than that, to you, it's not a grim-dark survival, it's life. The simple truth is, until the fall of Cadia, the Imperium had been surviving quite well. The only real notion it ever had of defeat was a myth known as the Horus Heresy, a time when the Primarchs and their legions brought about the ruination of everything the Emperor had built, and the very reason why he is now interred upon the Golden Throne. And then here, all of a sudden, is not only one of those Primarchs of myth, but he also appears to be forming a legion, the very thing believed to be responsible for almost the destruction of the Imperium. You can understand the apprehension here, and the questions of why does he need to do it again. And then, after that, what does he do on his return to Ultramar? Immediately start placing more of his sons and Astartes in control of vast realms of space, forcing worlds who are not even part of Ultramar to cede their governorship and control to them. And his reasons for doing so? Because they were within it some 10,000 years ago. Some, yes, maybe welcome the control with open arms. Naturally, others oppose it. Naturally, others fear it. It's human nature. And really, who can blame them? This is hardly the behaviour you'd expect from your benevolent saviour, the son of the God Emperor, the man created to defend the people of mankind. Honestly, I for one can very much understand the outcry from the military commanders, the leaders and politicians within the room as Guilliman announced his intentions. It appears every time he's doing nothing but forcing more and more Astartes' control. I think even the most ardent follower and believer in Guilliman would at least begin to wonder and question a little as to why he's doing these things in this situation. Because rather than proving those accusations that may be thrown his way wrong, he seems to be doing nothing more than proving them right in every decision he makes. And again, as great a Lord Commander as Guilliman may be, as great a Primarch as he may be, there may just be a very big reason the Emperor himself intended the people of mankind to rule themselves, and not his genetically created Primarchs. It was in mankind themselves that he looked to be the High Lords of Terror, the governors of the Imperium, and it was to the Astartes that he looked to be the shield, not its rulers. But as always guys, what do you think? Is Guilliman right or wrong to place his sons in control? Is he making the right move in expanding the borders of Ultramar to force worlds to hand over control to the Tetrarchs, whether they like it or not? As always guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.